Hello, my name is Jessica Hoffman, and I'm a violinist and Suzuki violin teacher in the Atlanta, Georgia area. As a Suzuki teacher, I'm here to support Suzuki parents and their children in their musical journey together. Did you know that Dr. Suzuki's goal was not to make professional musicians? Rather, his goal was to nurture the hearts of children, emphasizing character development while applying the mother tongue method to gaining the skills necessary to develop their own unique voice and expression on a musical instrument. As you may know by now, the three fundamentals of the mother tongue method are listening, repetition, and review. As Suzuki teacher trainer Ed Sprunger has said, if the process is rich, the product is a given. There are many methods of learning, but one of the things that sets the Suzuki method apart from others is the component of the Suzuki Triangle. The purpose of this talk is to explore the Suzuki Triangle, what it is, and its purpose. How do our roles as students, parents, and educators work in the Suzuki Triangle? How do we support each other in those roles? The Suzuki Triangle is comprised of the student, parent, and teacher. In this session, we will look at the role of the teacher in the Suzuki Triangle. If the purpose of the Suzuki method is not to chisel out a professional musician, what is it? Although the Suzuki method can help provide the avenue to becoming a professional, the answer is that the Suzuki method is there to help grow the student into an accomplished learner. If you're interested in hearing more about that, see the video I made with that title, Suzuki Violin, How to Help Your Child Become an Accomplished Learner. How do we help a growing student become an accomplished learner? This happens by transfer of ownership from the parent and teacher to the child through both motivation and self-evaluation by the student that leads to mature independence. Because the Suzuki Triangle's goal is to help the child gain independence through self-assessment and motivation, the triangle eventually changes over time in approximately 3 stages of development. This video will firstly focus on the responsibility of the teacher in the Suzuki Triangle. The teacher is there to assess each week's progress and to share the what and how of practice. This includes what to look for and weekly repetition assignments. If you think about it, a violin lesson is much like going to the doctor's. There are 3 steps. There is an examination, a solution given, and implementation. Without the 3 steps, in medical terms, it would lead to malpractice. The more thorough the examination, the more effective in giving a solution to what is working, and to keep doing that, or what isn't working, let's change it up and see if we can find something more effective. This is based on the reciprocal nature of the working relationship between the student, parent, and teacher. Next, we will focus on the parent's role. In the beginning stage of the Suzuki Triangle, the parent makes all the decisions for the child, just like they do for other things like vaccinations, going to school, brushing our teeth, bedtimes. The same goes for music lessons and daily home practice. Even though the child may be very interested and excited in starting their music lessons, it's the commitment of the parent that is key. After the initial honeymoon is over when beginning violin lessons, it is going to be the home routine and the parental involvement that is crucial to get through those inevitable times, such as, you mean we have to do this practice thing every day? Or we have to keep repeating things over and over? Yes, if we want to get good at something and be successful, we have to do it over and over. That's just how it is. In the beginning of the Suzuki journey, the parent takes on several roles. Let's look at 4 of them. First, the parent is the role model. If you want your child to take their learning seriously, You will have to model those things that you value for your child. For example, regular attendance of lessons will teach your child how important that is. Showing respect for the teacher at home and in the lesson. Daily practice. Regular listening of the Suzuki CD. If we want them to appreciate fine music, they have to be listening to fine music. Showing interest in other students playing. Regularly attending group classes. Attending student performances. Going to professional concerts. Attending workshops in Suzuki Summer Institutes. Whatever behavior we want them to know, we must also model that behavior. Second, in the lesson, the parent is actively the secretary, taking notes and recording home practice videos. Since children are not equipped with a vouchsafe recall capacity of what occurred in the lesson, the practicing parents' detailed notes and video are so important. When the student is expected to be self-reliant on remembering their lesson notes single-handedly, it puts a burden on the child. It's important that the teacher and the student have uninterrupted time together, as it gives the teacher the opportunity once a week over a period of time to develop a relationship of trust with that child. As Dr. Suzuki would say, one teacher. It can be very confusing to the child to have two teachers in the lesson. Sometimes, students might make a mistake in the lesson that they don't always at home. When this happens, this may be due to playing for a relatively unfamiliar person. Fewer interruptions when your child is trying to focus on the teacher will also allow for the child and teacher to develop an easy and natural relationship over time. You may have questions that you want to ask. Sometimes the teacher might find a careful moment to engage with the parent in the lesson, but for all other times, the Suzuki Triangle is stronger when you save your questions for either the beginning or the end of the lesson. If you come to the lesson with questions, be sure to ask at the start of the lesson rather than at the end. This will allow for the teacher to be able to give your questions a more careful response rather than being lost for time at the end. Third, at home, the parent is the home coach, and it is the responsibility of the parent to turn on the daily listening CD and to be sure that the practice is happening at home. Listening is as important or more so than practicing. Dr. Suzuki said, if a child hears fine music from the day of his birth and he learns to play it himself, he develops sensitivity, discipline, and endurance. He gets a beautiful heart. Parents are to ensure that the practice is happening at home. A question that parents may ask is, how much are we expected to practice? Well, Dr. Suzuki said, knowledge is not ability. Children acquire ability while repeating what they have already learned. Answer, for the best results, you want to practice 5, 6, or 7 days a week. While practicing 3 to 4 days a week will give a maintenance, practice less than that will not allow for skills to grow well. In the beginning, there's a lot of excitement and wonder about the violin. When the honeymoon phase wears off and the child realizes that we have to do this every day, I like to share with them something that Dr. Suzuki said, which is, only practice on the days that you eat. Of course, the reason why we eat is to give ourselves the nutrients and building blocks to grow strong bodies to accomplish what we want to do. The same is true for violin. It is up to the parent, not the child, to establish daily practice and, almost more importantly, daily listening to the Suzuki CD. The first assignment I like to give families is to go home that week and find your routine. What time of day are we going to do this? Right before school? Right after school? Right before dinner? One whole practice session? Or break it into a daily double? A combination of any of those. As another Suzuki teacher has noted, The child who practices consistently plays consistently. A child who has consistently positive experiences with their instrument will associate positive feelings with their playing. Fourth, you are your child's cheerleader. At the beginning stage, there is a lot of extrinsic motivation. This means that parents keep track of their child's work by charts, stickers, games, treats, moving beads, or perhaps a celebration meal after a performance and other various helps to direct the child's focus and acknowledge a job well done. Creativity is key in evaluating and tracking correct repetitions. What works wonderfully well on one day may not on the next, and a new idea needs to be created for a home practice plan. Now for something that might be one of the most valuable pieces of information on giving feedback to your child. Always acknowledge the effort put forth rather than saying how smart the child is. Studies show that children who are told they are smart are afraid of trying new and harder problems for fear of failure and appearing not smart. Children who were praised for their effort, on the other hand, were willing to try to solve puzzles and even improved on their scores. While natural intelligence is a variable that is not in the child's ability to control, effort is. Praise is motivational and needs to be specific and genuine, but not sugar-coated. When giving feedback, always start with at least one positive observation first. Here are some examples. You made such a big difference compared to the time before. I like how you didn't give up. You really stuck to it. I like how you kept thinking about what we talked about. Good try. Your pinky listened to you longer than ever before that time to stay curved on top of the bow. Next, we will focus on the student's role. The third person in the Suzuki Triangle is the student. We've already established some of the responsibilities of the teacher and the parent. The child, even a very young child, can be given very small, manageable tasks at the very beginning. This is the seeds of developing ownership that leads to mature independence. Ownership starts by having the child carry their own violin case to and from lessons and group classes. Other areas of developing ownership in the lesson and at home are entering and exiting the room in rest position with a violin, putting their sponge on the violin, tightening their bow hair, rosining their bow, saying thank you after the lesson, putting their violin away without any reminders. By the way, music is not a race. The teacher and parent can support the student to become an accomplished learner by fostering persistence, being willing to try new things, to repeat things over and over, and have a way to grow from mistakes. It's easy to focus on mistakes. If you're going to be learning an instrument, we have to view mistakes as a natural part of the journey and an important learning tool. As Suzuki teacher trainer Sarah Monska pointed out, celebrate what your child is doing well and view every mistake as an opportunity to grow and learn. In doing so, you can stay focused on your own path. We also want to keep the healthy perspective of not comparing one child to another, but rather that child to his or herself. I have seen laudable examples of parents, say in group class, who have made it a point to encourage another child, not their own, by pointing out something they are doing well. Hopefully you've enjoyed these videos and have learned some things about the Suzuki Triangle that will help you build your Suzuki Triangle for your unique journey in helping your child become an accomplished learner.